Among all the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, you can put travel near the top of the list. Canadians take their mobility for granted, or at least we did, until the land border with the United States was closed for non-essential travel in March 2020. So many people were desperate to get moving again this year.
I've done everything I'm supposed to do, and I want to start living my life. I don't have that many more years.
As millions of Canadians got vaccinated, the federal government removed its advisory cautioning against non-essential travel. Although by the end of the year, some doctors repeated a familiar warning.
First of all, do you really need to go? If you don't need to go, then defer. Defer until these areas of hotspots go down.
As a reporter, the border story was a big one again this year. Should you travel? Could you travel? Many tour companies were offering discount deals to try to spur interest. Even so, many Canadians were wary of travel for fear they could get stuck somewhere.
I'm kind of confused because there's a lot of things that you have to do. Things change on a daily basis.
And even vaccine passports weren't seen by all doctors as a panacea.
If it were up to me, I would actually institute finger prick tests, antibody tests. In other words, instead of showing me a piece of paper, show me the antibodies in your blood.
People have been faking documents and identifying that they are vaccinated when in fact they're not.
Canadians could always fly to the United States, but for most of the year we still couldn't drive across the border. Only essential trips were allowed. For Canadian border communities like Niagara Falls, Ontario, the restrictions were killing the tourist trade.
It's been devastating. Tourism's right up there with oxygen for us here in Niagara Falls.
Mayor Jim Diodati gave me the math.
We get 14 million people here a year. Typically, 25% of them come from the U.S. and they represent 50% of the revenue. So this is huge for tourism.
Local politicians applied pressure to higher levels of government, and they had hope. Then, halfway through summer,
tell her August the 9th, the border opens up to U.S. fully vaccinated people.
And Americans lined up at the Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls to be among the first to cross into Canada. Every single American I called over for comment had something to say. In my experience, Americans usually do. First trip in?
First trip in.
What do you think?
Thrilled. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
We come once a year. We haven't been in
16 months. Waited about an hour and a half, and now we're over.
But what about going the other way? Canadians still couldn't travel into the U.S. That would take 3 more months. When the day arrived, some couldn't wait.
182 days, yeah, we're really ready.
The border was open before, I would have been down there already.
We're just happy to get the other side here.
Now this was a big deal for Canadians too, especially those who own property in the United States. So we decided to visit a small village in western New York. I knew it very well because our family used to go skiing there. Ellicottville, New York, population about 1,500. We arrived the day before the border reopened. First stop, for work purposes, Fitterty's Tap Room. Which frankly felt a little bit odd because nobody was wearing a mask, and of course, we still do here. We got a very warm welcome though.
We love having you guys here.
We met up with the head of the local Chamber of Commerce, who happens to be Canadian. He described the border reopening like this.
It's the most exciting day we've had in a long time.
In this American town, Canadian flags lined the main street. A big sign welcomed Canadians back, and placards were posted in storefronts.
To have the Canadians back is going to be really exciting.
The Holiday Valley Ski Resort was happy.
Canadian visitors can make up to 20 to 25% of our visitors for the winter.
Canadians missed a whole season of skiing, and in return,
we really miss them. We miss their culture. We miss their all the families that come here.
Canadian Ann Paul has been coming across the border here since her childhood. She and her husband own a home.
We love it down here. It's beautiful.
One of the first things to do when they arrived on the first day the border reopened,
did a little hike with the neighbor, our American neighbor that we haven't seen for a while, and that was awesome.
Those homeowners who couldn't check into their U.S. places for 20 months, they needed somebody local to do that. For me, the best story of all was, what do you pay somebody who does that for you? It has a very Canadian ending. Arlene Wiseman and her husband live in Ontario and have a small place in town. She told me she tried to give money to the man who made sure their place was safe and secure, but he wouldn't take it. It wasn't the currency he wanted. He wanted something else.
My thing is Canadian beer. Please just bring me some Canadian beer. We did.